Welcome. Have a seat by the fire if the cold's gotten into your bones.
Read Thir's soul. Thir's soul is a vibrant, stolid thing, and as you reach out for it with your senses, you see your breath begin to fog in the air. You find yourself far above the ground, wedged into the juncture of two branches. The moonlight is bright upon the snow, and in the distance your quarry steps out onto the ice, as if onto an illuminated stage. You steal your breath and draw back your arrow. Warmth bleeds back into your limbs, frost and snow giving way to the smoky interior of Thir's home.
Welcome. Have a seat by the fire if the cold's gotten into your bones.
This is going to be fantastic. Just wait till they hear about this back home.
Okay, so I guess Okrun is no longer here in Stalwart.
Back to warm your hands, eh? What can I do for you?
Resmital says, I'd like to hire some help. Hyperic says, safety in numbers, right? What are you looking for?
Farewell.
Uh-huh. Been wondering about what you told Yalvino about seeing souls. All that Watcher business true?
Devil of Karox twists her torso to face you. Arismital says yes.
Mayhap I'm looking for someone. Woodcutter by the name of Harmka.
Arismitel asks, "This doesn't have anything to do with Cold Morn, does it? What is Cold Morn?" How does Arismitel know about this Cold Morn? What is it?
It sure does.
Karok fingers tighten into fists, the metal squealing and rattling.
He was one of them. The mob that destroyed Cold Morn.
What is Cold Morn? Her hometown?
I tracked him to Stalwart years ago, but got caught before I could finish my business.
Dark iridescent whorls appear and fade on her chest plate. Heat ripples from her metal carapace. Okay, Karok said that this Haramke is one of the mob that destroyed Cold Morn. I remember when reading Renengil's soul, she was thinking about the mob that was about to kill Mayor Sineheud, and it reminds her as the cause that drove that woman into doing the things she did. And I think she was referring to this devil of Karok when she was still a human, before Galvino experimented on her. Arismital says, "Sounds like there's more to it. This one's personal for you."
This man, Harmka, I saw him outside my house the night it burned, staring into the flames the way I seen you stare into souls.
Karok's fists clench and loosen in a series of rapid random movements.
I knew it were a fool's errand trying to hunt down every man and woman that carried a torch into Cold Morn, but
Karok twists her head from side to side and holds up a hand, the delicately engraved palm empty, but grasping at something. So why did this mob burn Cold Morn? What is Cold Morn and why is it burned?
If I knew I got the one responsible for my kin and my hearth, I might could rest easy.
Arismital asks, "How can you be so sure about this Haramke fellow?"
I took a good long look that night. Ours was a little place with a yellow door right on the edge of town. He was there.
Karok nods slowly.
Besides, I asked around when I first got to Stalwart. Townsfolk said that all the woodcutters in town took part in the purge.
All the woodcutters in the town took part in the purge? All the woodcutters? You mean all the woodcutters in Stalwart? She mentioned the purge. Is she referring to the purge of the Euthasians after the Saints' War?
Point of pride for them.
A small plume of heat rises from a seam in Karok's skull. Okay, so she must be an Euthasian. Her family and the people of Cold Morn must be Euthasians. If she's referring to the purge of Euthasians. But how did Arismital could mention Cold Morn when he never encountered conversations talking about Cold Morn? Arismital asks, "What does this have to do with me?"
I told you he was part of the mob. I spotted him watching my house when it burned. But when we find him, I want to know if he's the one responsible for my home, my parents, and my brothers and sister.
One of Karok's thumbs rubs absently at a scratch on her hand.
I never thought I'd have the chance to know for sure, but you could look into his soul and find out. You being a watcher and all.
Eder says, finding out might be getting your hopes up. How would you feel about a solid hunch instead? Arismital says, I'll do what I can.
Mighty fine of you. Mighty fine indeed.
Karok nods again, her head bobbing along to a drowsy cadence.
Don't know where he dallies these days, but someone in Stalwart could tell us. People from little villages, they always know.
The black marbles of her eyes scrape against their sockets as she looks at you. Arismital says, Galvino said you murdered several people before he transferred you.
Effigy's eyes, that man loved to talk.
Karok's eyes roll in their sockets. Arismital says, tell me why you killed those people.
If it's sane and logical reasoning you're wanting, you're gonna be disappointed. Ain't no sense in any of it.
Arismital says, if you're going to travel with me, I need to understand this. A soft hissing noise comes from the bronze golem. You recognize it as a sigh.
Mayhap you've heard of Coldmorn. Was a quiet, forgettable patch of the woods. Till a pack of rabid clodhoppers set it afire.
The fingers of one hand twitch and click against one another in a pair of sudden spastic motions.
That was the start of the purges. Dear Woodens killing their own.
Okay, so Karok was referring to the Eothasian purge. Okay. Arismital asks, what exactly happened to Cold Morn? Maybe I should use perception. Arismital says, you're upset. A sudden burst of heat flares from her seams as her essence surges and boils. Eder says it was when the purges it was where the purges started. So Cold Morn was ground zero for the Eothasian purge.
A farmer on the other side of the mountains woke up one day with his head all aflame and took it for the gibbering speech of his god.
Is she referring to Saint Widewin?
And so did a few thousand of his countrymen. So when he tired of Vorlus fields and marched west, a horde of armed Hicks followed.
Arismital says, you're talking about Widewin and the Saints' War.
Bunch of fool nonsense is what I'm talking about. But others have called it the same. If you know that much, then you've heard of Cold Morn. Ours was the village that let a few thousand of Widewind's troops pass through.
Ah.
You were from Cold Morn? When I heard what happened out there after the war, I couldn't believe my ears.
Fine line between couldn't and wouldn't.
Hmm. Arismital asks, why didn't you try to stop the Reatserans?
They had us clean beaten numbers. Even bumpkins like us figured that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just look at Mercy Vale. They fought back, and now there ain't one stone standing atop another in the whole village.
Karok sweeps one bronze palm across another, metal screeching. Yeah, I guess if they resisted, they would be steamrolled, like Mercy Vale according to Karok. So they had no choice but to let the Red Serans pass through. Well, it's the responsibility of the standing army as the first line of defense against invasions, right? So, where did this Dirwuden's army when Red Serans march towards Cold Morn.
Besides, we asked the Duke for help. Told him Widewind's troops was coming through the mountains. Seems he had better uses for his soldiers.
I've got my answer. Karok crosses her arms over her plated chest. So the people of Cold Morn did ask the Duke at that time for help. But the help didn't come. The Duke did not answer the plea for help.
So we let Widewind's soldiers pass. Left him for the Duke to wrangle on his own terms.
You hear a soft clank as Karok flicks her wrist. Arismito says, so Cold Morn was purged in retaliation.
Was after the Godhammer made a fine grit out of Widewind, when Deerwoodens were running on rage and looking for something to burn.
You catch glimmers and glints at her seams as razor-thin wires pull tight within her body.
They came at dark, hundreds of folk. Every one of them mourning someone lost in the war.
A dry chuckle ticks in Karok's throat.
Must have decided it was our duty to escort their dead back to the wheel. They didn't light their torches till they had us surrounded. Time we saw 'em, there was a ring of fire closing around us.
Karok pauses, and a mechanism in the back of her skull clicks dully.
I woke. Ran to the window. Whole village were a maze of flames. Couldn't see nothing for the smoke. And the screams.
Karok's thumb spasms to a strange rhythmic beat.
Most ran for the streets. Got caught by the mob. Others hid, let their houses burn down around them.
Arismital asks, what does that have to do with your crimes? I'm guessing revenge?
Hunting down the men and women what took part. Thought that much was clear.
Okay, so burning down the houses was her journey for revenge. Burning down the houses of those responsible. Arismital asks, but you only killed people who attacked Cold Morn, right?
Sure.
Karok's voice is flat and as expressionless as her face.
You want me to tell you straight? I found the men and women what destroyed my village, and I burned their houses down around them. Sometimes they was alone, and sometimes they wasn't.
Karok shrugs. Okay, so there were bystanders. I mean, so there were people who weren't involved in the purge of Cold Morn, who got caught in her path of revenge. I see. Arismital. Well, option number 1 is silly. Asking what is she trying to accomplish? Revenge, of course. But I'm curious to hear her response. Arismital asks, what exactly did you hope to accomplish?
It were a mob that destroyed our village, but it was just one man that burned my family's house.
Karok pauses.
Kept hoping I'd get to him as I was working my way through the rest of those maggots. No matter now, I suppose.
A sigh rattles out of Karok's bronze skull, but her essence weeps and twitches, as restless as a cat's tail. Arismital says, you and Galvino had an unusual relationship.
Only kind to have with someone like him. Or me.
Karok crosses her arms. Arismital says, you resent him.
No other way to feel about the man who flayed my living soul.
Metal squeals as she shifts her folded arms. Arismetal asks, "How long have you two known each other?" Okay, I was wondering, how did Karok got captured when she reached Stalwart? I mean, she did burn the other houses before in other towns before she arrived in Stalwart. So what happened in Stalwart that got her to get caught? That caused her to get caught? Arismetal asks, "How long have you two known each other?"
Around about 13 years. Too long, you ask me.
Arismetal says he claimed he made you.
He'd spread butter on bread and claim he made something. Never been accused of modesty, that man.
Karok's eyes roll wildly.
He managed to stuff my soul into this heap of bronze, true enough. Maybe that makes him a genius. Also makes him a son of a bitch.
Karok drums her fingers along one scratched bicep. Arismetal asks, "Did you ever consider murdering him?"
Every day. Just kept putting it off. It's not like either of us was going anywhere.
Arismetal asks, "What exactly did you do for him?" Karok regards you for several seconds. She shrugs.
Looked after his tools, cleaned the workshop, swung the sledgehammer. Oh, and snatched up travelers for his soul tinkering.
Wait, snatched travelers. So Galvino was lying when he said he used smugglers, fugitives, murderers as his experiment subjects. So Galvino was lying. He took non-criminals as well. Arismetal asks, "What are you talking about?"
All those other golems, where did you think they came from?
Karok cocks her head. So Galvino was lying to Aris about the people that he used for the experiment. Not all of them are criminals. Interesting.
But don't you worry. They were all bad folk.
Huh? Bad folk? So they were criminals? Okay. But what were their crimes? Violent crime? Non-violent crime? If it's a non-violent crime, I think it's too much to punish them with the experiment. If it's a non-violent crime, you know, like in today's world, in prison, they mix criminals who commit violent crimes and criminals who commit non-violent crimes. It's not good in my opinion. I mean, why would you give criminals in prison a chance to feel like they are powerful, to feel like they have control? They're supposed to go through their sentence as punishment. But if you mix violent criminals and non-violent criminals, the violent criminals will lord over the non-violent criminals, and it makes them feel powerful, which is not a punishment if you make someone feel powerful in the prison. All should be equally living through their sentence without any opportunity to feel powerful. over the other inmates. It's just like a zoo, the way it is now. Arismital says, "Thank you for telling me."
Just so you know, you got a real professional working for you.
Arismital says, "Let's talk about something else."
Yeah, I've had enough of him too.
Karok drops her arms, relaxing her posture. Arismital says, "About Durgan's battery."
Just 'cause I'm made of metal don't mean I got any special fondness for smiths and forges.
Karok flicks the bronze of her forearm, producing dissonant ring. Arismital asks, "Do you know anything about it?"
No more than what Galvino already told you.
Arismital asks, "Do you remember any of the other expeditions that came to Galvino?"
Nothing specific. Everyone looks about the same when they got their fingers up their noses.
Karok pauses thoughtfully. Then her head snaps forward in a tiny, quick moment of realization.
Only the last group, one before you, there was something different about them.
3 of Karok's fingers clench and spasm.
Couldn't put my finger on it, but they was dangerous. Almost felt the hair on the back of my neck.
Karok runs her hand along the smooth, segmented bronze of her neck. But you no longer have hair, right?
Ain't felt that way about anyone else walking through Galvino's door, that's for sure.
Okay, who are these people? Now I'm intrigued. Arismital says never mind.
Murder, tracking, and the best materials for kindling. Those are more my area of expertise.
Arismital asks, "What was your life like before the Saints' War?"
There weren't much to say about it. By my reckoning, that means it was pretty good.
Karok nods thoughtfully.
Ma was a trapper, taught me to set snares and dress game. Dad was a tinker. I never had his patience, but it were fun to watch him work. My brothers and sister, they was good folk too. Part of me's glad they ain't here to see me now.
Karok's face is as blank as ever, but her essence ebbs and writhes. She turns away. Arismital says that's all. Fine harm ke.
Shining bright from on high. Sleep in her bosom.
Back to warm your hands, eh? What can I do for you?
Arismital asks, "Do you know a man named Harmke?"
The woodcutter? Sure do. Head west from the village, then go north. If you see the frozen stream, you've gone too far. Usually works a stand of trees out in the russet wood, though he steps out from time to time.
Well, what are we waiting for?
We're not really going to do this, are we? Tell me we're not doing this.
We'll see, Aloth.
Didn't think I'd miss this place. Had that much right.
Karok says, "It's him, Harumke. I remember that wicked chin and those knobbly knees." Karok stops, staring motionless at the figures among the trees. Adair says, "A wicked chin and knobbly knees. Can't be too many people matching that description."
How goes?
The elven man emerges into the clearing and freezes, staring at the devil of Karok. For an elf, he's tall and rangy, with a weather-beaten face beneath stringy greasy hair. The others with him turn, glaring and gaping at the bronze golem.
Auroch's shadow! What's that wicked thing doing here?
Harumke swallows, a lump bobbing in his neck. Arismital asks, "Why are you so nervous?"
It's a killer! Look, we don't want no trouble. Just trying to do our work.
Beads of sweat have formed on his forehead, despite the chilly air.
We'd be much obliged if you'd leave us be. And take that thing with you.
Harumke looks at the devil with a mixture of terror and loathing. Karok says, "Enough. What do you see, Arismital? Is that the man who torched us?" The devil sways on her feet, her whole body moving around the axis of her ankles. Though she's talking to you, her attention, a concentrated spear of essence, is focused on Harumke. Arismital. Should I read Harumke's soul, or should I ask him questions? Arismital asks, "Harumke, do you remember the village of Cold Morn?"
Everyone does. Let the Raidserans into the Deerwood. What's that got to do with anything?
Harumke's expression falls. Devil of Karok says, "What are you dallying for? See what's written on the bastardo's soul." Her essence boils and frosts. Arismital asks, "Who are you?"
Just a woodcutter. Ask anyone in Stalwart. They'll tell you.
Karok says, "I want answers, Arismital. If you don't stop his mewling, so help me, I'll rip them out of his head myself." Read Harumke's soul. Harumke steps away from you, but your awareness reaches through his trembling skin and the feeble resistance of his fear. You see memories, snow-shrouded forests, partitioned by fallen pines and fears, days measured by the steady swing of your axe. There are other moments too, recollections that flare up like a heart's welcoming fire. There are children, spry and lanky like you, but still full of the rowdy energy of youth. Together, You scatter winter bloom petals on a grave. You reach deeper into Harumke's soul. Years roll back. A torch in your left hand bathes your face and shoulder in heat. All around you are other men and women holding other torches, and the mountain air is acrid with the stench of smoke and sweat. Rage billows off the others. It's been a fever in your blood for days now, exhausting you and invigorating you in equal measure. You're at the edge of that town, cold morn. It's hours yet before dawn, but the commotion has started to awaken the village. Candlelight ignites behind frost-crusted windows, and haunted faces peer out at you through the glass. You begin to doubt yourself. Just then a door slams. A villager comes racing through the streets, kicking up snow. With his stark white face and pale hair, he looks almost like a ghost. The line of torch bearers ripples as he gets closer. He picks up speed, but nobody moves toward him. You imagine him breaking through the row, shattering your ranks like the bad dream that brought you all here. You imagine waking up in your bed, the heat from your torch nothing more than the warmth of your wife sleeping next to you. Instead, the villager reaches the row of torch-bearers a stone's throw away from you. A woman advances from the line and buries her dagger in his neck. The rest of your fellows shout, rage, memory, and bloodthirsty triumph boil up in you. You all came with a purpose. You came to bring justice to the traitors of Cold Morn. The next few hours are painted in colors more vivid than life. You put your torch to anything that stands and your sword to anyone who runs. It is as if Magaran herself whispers in your ear and guides your hand. Exhaustion has almost cooled your rage when you spy a house at the edge of town. One of the only buildings that hasn't already burned. It's flanked by a knotty spruce trees, and the door is painted yellow. Yellow, the bloom of sunrise, the hue of your son's hair, the color of cowardice. Wait, why is Hanke thinking about his son as a coward? Maybe because he doesn't want to partake in the purge? Just then, someone barrels. I remember. Did Karok mention our house being yellow in color? Just then, someone barrels into you from behind. It's a man. Someone you remember from the journey to Cold Morn, though you can't recall his name. He snarls at you, mad with indiscriminate rage, and it occurs to you that he's mistaken you for one of the villagers. You smash the window and hurl your torch inside. The other man has turned away. You think you hear a child shriek within the house, but it's impossible to tell above the roar of the riot. Harumke shivers as you pull away from his memory. His eyes are wide with guilt and fear. Devil of Karok says, "Spit it out, Arismital. What did you see?" Karok's feet are rooted in the snow, but her limbs jerk and jangle. Well, Karok is a member of my group. I can't afford her to have any hang-ups from the past. Her whatever it is that bugs her mind needs to be solved, needs to be resolved. Should I just tell Karok number 1 or number 3? I'm not going to tell number 2. I'm not going to lie for... I'm not going to lie to Karok or Haramke. 1 or 3? Arismita says it's not that simple. Karok says, don't give me that greasy horse feces. You looked into the squalid dregs of his soul. Tell me what you saw. Karok steps toward you, strangely clumsy. Heat patterns streak and flare across her body. The snow melts around her feet. Arismita says, he burned down your house. Karok stares at Haramke. You hear only a whirring mechanism in her throat, but Haramke leans closer.
What did you say?
Haramke's mouth quivers. Karok says, what did it feel like? The torch in your hand, the blade you carried, what did they feel like? A wild, inhuman scream echoes out of the bizarre machinery of her throat. It drops Haramke and his companions to their knees, where they cry out in terror. Gears squeal and crank as she rushes at him. So we're going to fight all the woodcutters? Why can't we just kill Haramke and spare the other woodcutters?
Right here. Village was a touch livelier when I saw it last. Ain't saying much, though.
Karok's head swivels as she looks around. Arismital asks, what do you remember about Stalwart?
Bitter cold and a persistent odor of fish. And that were just the people.
Arismital asks, why did you want to come back anyway?
Anything's better than Galvino's workshop. You ain't heard the old buzzard sing.
Karok turns away again.
Anyway, what about you? We seen lots coming through, trying to crack the battery, but no watchers.
Karok looks back at you, her black eyes glittering. Arismital says, I've got my eye on the treasures in Durgan's battery.
Treasures with sharp edges and spiky bits, right? Those come in handy.
Anything for Kite Nua's improvements?
But don't let me keep you from the sights and sounds of Stalwart. They're easy to miss.
Karok rests her hand on her hips and turns to look around. Arismital says, I want to ask you about something else. The black marbles of her eyes scrape against their sockets as she looks at you. That's all.
Yes?
I hope there's no survivors, because if there's a survivor and they went back to Stalwart and told everyone about what happened, then it's going to jeopardize the relation that Aris is trying to build between Kainua and Stalwart. Nasu's patron was silent about the source of their leads, but the notes quickly proved to be valuable. A grimoire sale in the Sithwood and notes from a dead Reatseran wizard pointed the way toward 3 other wizards that were unwittingly performing research based on Gaelev's stolen notes. Spread out across the eastern reach, the wizards were amiable enough but quite unwilling to part with their own extensive notes. After reporting back to the patron servant, Nasu discovered that no additional services were required. It wasn't until after returning to Kainua that Nasu learned of the grisly deaths of the 3 wizards, all under suspicious circumstances. A short time later, a package arrived via guarded courier. It was addressed to Nasu, and the note inside simply read, "A gift," in an antiquated hand. The Hellwax mold. This hinge mold has the amazing power to fully duplicate non-soulbound weapons, shields, armor, and other equipment placed inside of it. The immense magical energy required to fabricate the copy uses the mold for raw material and wholly consumes it in the process. Wait, what? The immense magical energy required to fabricate the copy uses the mold for raw material and wholly consumes it in the process. So I can only use it one time? Okay. An anonymous patron. I wonder who this anonymous patron is. And this Hellwax mold fits the description of Gaelev's device. No, not Gaelev's device, but one of Gaelev's research. A device that could replicate entire magical objects. So the anonymous patron gave us the Hellwax mold. Is this individual related to Gaelev? Or maybe not related at all. He just wants Gaelev's research notes to continue the research on their own. And somehow after the barbarians sacked the province and the workshop, Gaelev's workshop, somehow Gaelev's research notes landed in the hands of 3 wizards in the Eastern Reach. Interesting. The research notes travel far. Let's speak to Renengild. Will she say anything about the death of Harmke and Grinde leaving the village?
I take it you've met Galvino.
Renengild glances at the Devil of Karok, her eyes narrowing. Yeah. Sorry. For bringing her here.
Something else you need?
So it seems no one knows that we are responsible for the death of Harmke. Okay then, that's good. What about Harmke's family? If Arismital can find out who Harmke's family is, Arismital will leave a generous sum of coins for the family.
Back to warm your hands, eh? What can I do for you?
If you say so.
Shining bright from on high, she bade him come down from his palace.
The devil has not scorched you yet, eh? Perfetto.
Arismital says, I've news about Green Day.
Yes?
Does the sniveling cur hide in his home, or has he been exiled to a place even more frigid and foul?
Galvino claps his hands together in excitement. Arismetal says, I learned that he murdered his sister.
Diverus! The man is even more of a wretch than I thought!
Galvino's face glows with macabre delight.
What of him now? Surely the villagers string him up with his own fishing line.
Arismetal says, he is leaving town with his tail tucked between his legs.
Perfetto! Oh, I only wish I could have seen it.
Galvino's broad smile exposes rows of yellowing teeth.
I will open a good wine tonight. As for you, take this.
I hope this will cement our good relation, in case next time Kite Nua requires your help.
The devil has not scorched you yet, eh? Perfetto!
You must gather your party before venturing.
As you grab the bow, it vibrates with a strange and familiar energy. Searching your pack, you find a silver arrow that you found lodged in an injured winter wolf. As you hold the bow and arrow together, the arrow suddenly snaps into place. You hear a crackling hum, and a pale ribbon of light begins to form between the ends of the bow. When you pull the arrow back, you feel a very solid resistance. Stormcaller, what is it? A weapon?
Hmm?
The gilded panel shows an image of a crenellated wall and an iron anvil that you socketed into place. Arismetal says, "Hammers of Durgan ring loud, may the anvil's deep music resound." Distantly, you hear the melodic chime of metal on metal and the low chorus of a work song. Strike the anvil relief. As you do, a single ringing tone whistles through the air. Your hand buzzes and vibrates like struck metal. When you look back at the relief, the panels on either side of the wall and anvil have come alive. Ogres and warriors of all races gather for battle, their shapes and silhouettes formed by flaring, horned heat patterns. The tiny figures move and dance, animated by the flicker and blaze of an unseen fire. Arismetal says, "Abidon's faithful travail the forge, and the fires that brighten the ore." Wait, Arismetal says, "Walls of the battery safeguard our works, from marauder and wilder alike." You hear a heavy thud of some kind of mechanism loosening behind the plaque. Push the crenellated wall relief. It slides easily with the slightest pressure from your fingers. You guide it up and over the anvil relief, where it clicks into place. Beneath it is a deep cavity. It's shaped like a dragon's gaping jaws. Arismetal says, "Abidon's faithful travail by the forge, and the fires that brighten the ore." Warm air gusts from the open mouth, tingling your cold, numbed face. Arismetal examines the mouth more closely. The heat billowing from the mouth prevents you from getting too close, but the rim of the cavity and the tiny teeth surrounding it are blackened with soot. You accidentally inhale some of the vapor. It's odorless, but it leaves you lightheaded. Use your torch to light a fire in the mouth. Fire catches the warm vapor with a billowing whoosh. The dragon's eyes are alight, and flames lick at the edges of its mouth. A few seconds later, The panel is sliding away from you as the two enormous doors swing open into a grand hall. Finally, Durgan's battery is opened. Arismital and his companions are the first to accomplish this. You sense the presence of one of the other pieces of Garot's helm nearby.
Easy, Itumak. I feel it too.
Let's see what we found. We earned this. Durgan's steel has lined our halls in gold. Your vanity dishonors Abidan and cheapens us all.
These weapons are ours. Or have you two forgotten how to hold a sword?
So much for village superstitions.
Arms Warden Maroon, Chief Coin Master Zoltun, and the other one was his name Exandru. Chief Curate Exandru. Okay, so one is in charge of the gold, one is in charge of the weapons, and Exandru, what is he in charge of? Abidan, isn't that the deity that the Crucible Knights worship? They have a temple of it inside the Crucible's keep. Gold, weapons, craftsman, blacksmith. The statue of Abidan is mottled and tarnished, but each bolt and rivet appears crafted with meticulous detail. Battery defender, battery shield wall.
Get out! Out!
Let's see what we found.
Letter to Zoltun. Esteemed Coinmaster Zoltun, I write to you in anger and bafflement. Have I not been a faithful customer to you? Have I not been fair in my dealings? Yet after all of our business together, your people turn me away like some filthy beggar. I arrived at the battery a fortnight ago, frost in my beard, and not a morsel in my belly. Barely had I unhitched the horses when your commandant Exandru came to meet me. The priest told me that I would be made welcome, but my profane business would not. In short, I would have to leave at first light, my wagons empty. Certain that this was but a negotiating tactic, I told Exandru that I would of course see him, compensated, along with you. He left in a huff. And when I presented myself at the door, it was Commandant Maroon, your arms warden, who met me. She told me to leave at once, that she wouldn't have my coin-grabbing hands tarnishing Durgan steel. Now, I appreciate forceful bargaining as much as any man of coin, but I was cold, hungry, and put off by her vehemence. So I showed her the letter you had sent inviting me to examine your latest stock of Durgan steel. Commandant Maroon drove a rapier through the letter and sliced it in two. She then warned me that her blade, a fine weapon indeed, would be the last I ever laid eyes on if I did not hie back down the mountain at once. Never have I endured such humiliation and expense only to return home empty-handed. I do not understand what has passed between you and your associates, but I urge you to take charge. I fear the other commandants will be your undoing. Indeed, that of all Durgan's battery, if you do not deal with them swiftly and decisively. Yours, Mestre Anetto of Cesaro. Oh, a valiant trader.
Damn you both! My generation built this keep to honor Abidan, not to further your greed and ambition.
We're Pergrunen. Our forefathers explored and conquered, but you've stuck us in this frigid hall.
Paved with gold and marble. I won't allow us to abandon our legacy for your delusions.
No, you'll peddle it away to line your pockets. How much have you made selling our steel, Zoltan?
Again with your lies. You think I don't hear you turning the others against me? These walls echo, and...
Enough! I'll send the Forge Guardians on both of you if that's what it takes.
I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
You think you glimpse flickers of movement in this tarnished, clouded mirror. Record of production. Here is a current accounting of this month's production. 20 long swords, 15 axes, 12 hammers, 7 maces, 2 flails, 7 full suits of armor, 4 forged guardians, 3 additional suits of armor. If the commandants remark on production rates, kindly remind them that we received 3 different work orders from them. Vassal, Master Smith of Durgan's battery. A note in another hand is written at the bottom of the page. What does Exandru need with so many forged guardians? Keep an eye on him. M. Must be Maroon. Arms Warden Maroon. Well, during the ghost conversations, Exandru did say, enough. If this continues or something like that, I will send the Forged Guardians on you. So yeah, I guess that's why he needs the Forged Guardians. To get the other 2 in line, or to subdue the other 2.
He's a traitor to the battery.
Bill of Sale. You unroll the scroll and see an inventory of weapons and armor. Swords, shields, breastplates, and helms. All are listed as sold to a Lucan of Dunrid. The bill is signed by Commandant Zoltun, Coin Master of Durgan's battery.
Let's see what we found. I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
Encased within a thick sheet of ice, this dwarven corpse has been remarkably preserved, though his features are obscured by the frost. Clutched in the dwarf's hands is a large cloth-wrapped bundle, perhaps a pack. Use swift strikes to punch through the ice. Your fist blow sends pain lancing up your arm, but you persist. Chunks of ice are sent flying as you rain down a hail of blows upon the frozen figure. At last, with an alarming cracking sound, the satchel emerges. Look inside. The contents of the satchel are largely unharmed. You find a handful of stamped coins, some papers, and a scroll, along with a heavy iron key. Further searching uncovers nothing else. Rolled parchment added to the stash. Rolled parchment. Maroon's getting suspicious. I've got her sniffing after Zoltun for the time being, but she'll keep an eye on me. I had the lads put the last shipment in with the coal, in a cart across the tracks. I'm counting on you to make sure it gets topside. You don't mind getting your hands dirty, right? Sign Gregor. Ah, so it was Gregor who is doing all this trade. But then he makes it look like that it was Zoltun. So the one responsible for this misunderstanding is Gregor. Most of these crates and barrels are empty, and several are overturned. It looks as if they were cleared out in a hurry.
She'll bring these walls down around us.
I'm here.
Tables, shields, and collapsed stones have been piled up to form an impassable barricade.
He'll regret this.
Battered helm. The surface of this ancient helmet is pitted all over with dents like pockmarks, and on a diseased skull, two crusty sockets at the front mark the absence of what would likely have been horns. Garrod. As it has twice before, your vision blurs and fades to black. When it returns, you find yourself on your knees, a shattered sword in your hand and a broken, battered helm in front of you. Your helm. You can feel blood pouring down one side of your face, and you know for certain that you will never see out of your left eye again. Arrayed around you in a circle are other warriors, some from your tribe, the rest from an enemy tribe. They watch the combat in silence. You're going to die, old man. Your opponent is brash, but young and strong. You still think single combat was a good idea? You do. Last winter's famine took a heavy toll on your tribe, and your warriors were in no shape to fend off an all-out attack from its enemies. Single combat was your tribe's only hope, but not if you lose. Once again the world stops, the memories trail awaiting your guidance. What would Garrod do, huh? What would Garrod do? Pretend to pass out. You keel over, surreptitiously grabbing one of the broken horns of your help of your helm as you do. You lie there, eyes closed, listening for your opponent's approach, trusting in his arrogance to come within striking distance. Pathetic. You hear the crunch of the other warrior's feet near your head, and in a flash you strike, driving the horn upwards into your foe's unarmored groin. He howls in agony, but you keep striking again and again until he's silent. The enemy warriors snarl and shout when they see their champion fall, but soon leave your village peacefully, bound by the combat's results. Garrod says, yes, it's all coming back. My sister, my reign, the end. Oh, Garrod looked at his own spectral form with a sad surprise in his eyes, watching it begin to fade. But I've only just seen it. There's been so little time to know what to make of it all. Adesmintel asks, so am I going to get anything out of this, or? Garrod sighs. The wheel has no patience, it seems. I entrust my helm to your care. You find Garrod's helm in your hands whole and unbroken. Garrod says, farewell, my friend. So I found the first horn back in Matron Beregan's cave. A spirit then appears and I have flashbacks. The second time it happens again when I bought a horn from Iduran in Stalwart. And now it happens again for the third and final time when I got the helmet. Alright.
Let's see what we found. Carrying too much weight.
Do not remove any equipment from the armory without permission from Arms Warden Maroon or Captain Gregur. Yup, Gregur. That's the one whose note I read. So he's the one who's doing the illegal trading, yeah? And he's framing Zoltun for it.
Let's see what we found. I'm here.
Traitors! Cowards!
We've got to survive. by any means necessary.
We'll have blood in these halls before long.
Arms Warden Maroon. As you approach the doorway, a wave of essence ripples through the air. The ancient stones grind and groan around you, and a woman's voice echoes from the hall.
Stop right there. You must be some merchant come to speak with Zoltan.
There's a pause in which the woman's wrathful essence gathers like a storm cloud on the other side of the door. The entire room creaks from the pressure of her presence. Sagani says, I think I liked it better when I thought all this haunting business was just villagers' tales.
Our illustrious coin master may let you plunder our armory, but I've got other ideas for dealing with your lot.
Maroon's voice is sharp and loud, like the slamming of a door. As her words echo in the chamber, the ghosts startle and flinch, glancing about in agitation. It was Captain Gregun. What was his name again? Gregur? It was Captain Gregur, not Zoltan. I read the note. I have it. You can read it for yourself.
Turn and go before I show you how an arms warden deals with trespassers.
Arismital asks, what's going on here?
Pargrunin quarrels are no business of yours, outsider.
Maroon's tone is as cold as the icy holes around you. Arismital asks, who are you?
I'm Maroon, proud Pargrin and arms warden of Durgan's battery. And you're answering my questions now.
Stone grinds and crumbles at the sound of her voice. Arismital says, I'm just looking around. The ghosts stir, looking around and shivering. Their eyes widen and glow as they light on you, as if they're noticing you for the first time. Just as quickly, they gaze away and seem to forget you once more, but now they seem alert, wary.
Leave our halls. Go back to whatever land you hail from.
A draft moans through the bottom of the door. Arismital says, your foundations were blessed by Abidon himself. What harm could I possibly do?
You sound like Exandru. At least you're no friend of Zoltan's, then.
A gust of air sighs across your feet.
You may pass, but don't make me regret this. I'll be watching you.
Okay.
Let's see what we found.
Zoltan's the only one with sense. Anyone who says otherwise is a fool.
That cheat sold our steel and kept the coin himself.
Maroon! She won't rest until our corpses decorate the halls.
A bronze statue of Abaddon stands over incense ash and rusted metal tokens. What does Abaddon looks like? He looks like someone in a suit of armor with a giant hammer, sledgehammer.
How long before the commandants come to blows?
Did you see the look in Maroon's eye? Exandro had better watch his back.
An upper section of the side of the tower has crumbled, blocking access within.
I shall.
We can't hold them off!
Fall back!
I'll handle this. It's done.
Shattered skeletons lie prostrate before the shrine. Swords and helms have been laid at the feet of the statue. Heat ripples and rises from great covered hallways below you. Something heavy broke through the railing and gouged a chunk out of the bridge. Heat ripples and rises from great covered hallways below you.
They're coming! To the mines!
Workshop.
I'll handle this. It's done.
Stone dial. This thick circle of dark stone is intricately engraved with various strange symbols. A small stone protrusion rises from the center to the outer edge, pointing outward. These scrolls catalog quantities of ore and minerals taken from the mines. This is a map of the mines, but various tunnels and choke points have been marked off with arrows and axes. It looks like a hasty battle plan. A freezing draft filters through the collapsed wall. It looks like as if something broke through from the outside. So I guess not only the dwarves are squabbling against each other, they also experience invasion from the outside. Who attacked them? Who invaded them?
can't move!
It's not working!
Tracks are covered by bones, dust, and more tracks. But this was a slaughter.
Only a few bones protrude from the rubble, and they've been broken like twigs. The wall has been smashed into great jagged shards. Skeletons lie crushed beneath enormous stone slabs.
Out of my way!
Something burns beneath you, but you can't see what.
What's this?
Heat from the level below prickles your skin.
Don't look back!
Keep running!
Many of these bones have been ground into grit. The breastplates and cuisses are all smashed or bent beyond further use. These stone slabs have shattered like pottery.
Hold them off! Move!
Abaddon's gears! They're coming!
For the battery!
The iron and copper deposits are spattered with blood. Rocks choke the tunnel mouth as if it caved in or was purposefully collapsed some time ago.
We're outnumbered!
An empty minecart sits at the mouth of this tunnel, waiting to be loaded up with ore. Despite the condition of some of the surrounding tunnels, this cart and the tracks beyond appear to be intact. There is a lever at the base of the tracks. Look inside the cart. The cart is empty, if dusty and patchy with rust, and large enough that a group of kith might fit inside uncomfortably. This empty minecart sits upon the tracks leading down a dark mining tunnel. There is a lever beside it. Walk away.
Listen, you hear that?
Erasmur's letter. Something was hastily scrawled across this page. It reads, Floru, we're trapped here, but I take heart in knowing you're safe below. When this ends, take whatever you can carry and leave for Fort Bone Picker at once. Take our nephew if you can. It's not safe here. Keep this with you. Your love, Erasmur. The other side looks like a poem, but it's obscured with dirt. So, the Pargrun dwarves have at least more than one fortress. One is Durgan's battery, the other one is Fort Bone Picker. Alright.
Are we safe here?
Quiet.
Hurry! We can hide here!
They're going to come for us here, and...
The skeleton's ribcage has been smashed into fragments. These dwarf's remains lie on the floor, covered in dirt and swathed in cobwebs. Essence drifts nearby, hanging in the still air, like dust motes. Reach out to the essence. It takes a little additional effort, but you manage to gather the floating essence to you. You work your way into it, and suddenly find yourself immersed in the soul's memory. The shock hits you with an almost physical force. Your heart hammers within your chest. Other Pargrunen rush past you, retreating or attacking. It's gotten hard to tell. You're running along a dark tunnel, pushing your overtaxed body as fast as it will go. Your heart pounds harder with each step. Concussive thump echo above you. Each one seems to resound in your heaving chest. You pass the mines and reach the main hall. It's packed full of shouting, shoving, panicking dwarves. Even if you could reach the door at the other end without getting trampled or beaten to death first, something in the fever of the crowd tells you it's already locked. The tunnel behind you rings with screams. Who are attacking them? Who attacked them? Who invaded the dwarves? You had another dial for the door to the forge below, but it's locked in the workshop on the other side of the barricade. The sounds of battle grow closer. You race to the mines, ignoring the building pressure in your chest. You scurry deeper into the mines, losing track of your path. The tunnels seem to close around you. You stumble and fall. You try to pull yourself up, but your arm is dull with pain. Even though you stop, you can't quite catch your breath. For the first time, you notice a squeezing agony in your chest. Darkness gathers around you. You pull back from the memory, gulping for air. Who invaded the dwarves of Durgan's battery? It seems they were really getting their asses kicked, and they're really running away, fearing for their lives. What was going on? Search the body. A key glints in the dirt next to the corpse femur. As you examine it, the nearby spirit grows restless, growling and fidgeting. Take the key. You push the bones aside and grab the key. As you do, you hear screams of horror and fury. The dead of Durgan's battery converge on you, their unnatural teeth and claws bared.
Stop them!
A heavy bronze suit appears to have been ripped apart, its pieces scattered across the floor. To seek the White Forge in the north.
Let us in! They're coming!
So these people are trapped outside the door. Someone locked the door and they're not letting these people in. What the heck? Locking the door and dooming the rest? Reached Old Vilia in the west. A cold wind from the south, and bore our parents east.
Blasphemy!
Despite the years of weathering, where the helmets on the other armors in the room are plain and lusterless, this one is brighter and more reflective. This armor has been post bracing behind a broad shield, thick and sturdy as a city gate. The sword wielded by this suit of armor is covered in fine detail work, far more intricate than that of the armor itself. A hole bores into the stone. Its edges are blackened and gritty with soot.
What's this? Carrying too much weight.
A circular depression carved into the stone sits below the relief of a dwarven warrior. The armor-clad figure is charging ahead against an unseen enemy. Insert the sigil of the sword into the depression. Wait, inspect the stone carving. 3 holes puncture the bottom of the circular depression. Their edges seem worn, as if something had scraped against them. Above the depression, a dwarf appears to ready a charge holding a shield low and a sword high. Well, this statue here, the prominent thing about the statue is the sword. So yeah, insert the sigil of the sword into the depression. You hold the symbol in place, matching its protrusions against the holes in the circular depression. They align perfectly. A gentle push is enough to slide the symbol into its receptacle. You hear a faint clicking sound behind the stone wall. A circular depression carved into the stone sits below the relief of a dwarven warrior. The armor-clad figure stands guard against an unseen enemy. Above the depression, a dwarf appears to ready defend against a charge, holding a shield high and sword low. Insert the sigil of the helm into the depression. No. The helm. I don't have the shield. Dang it.
Carrying too much weight.
You profane Abidon's sacred ground!
The relief of a dwarven warrior. The armor-clad figure stands over a defeated enemy. Stepping on the corpse of a vanquished foe, dwarf holds his own helmet high in sign of victory. Insert the sigil of the helm into the depression. You hold the symbol in place, matching its protrusions against the holes in the circular depression. They align perfectly. A gentle push is enough to slide the symbol into its receptacle. You hear a faint clicking sound behind the stone wall. I wonder, how did I miss the sigil of shield? Did I miss an area in this map that I did not get the sigil of shield? I've explored all the area. How could I miss the sigil of shield? I don't understand. As you approach the door, you notice a round depression within the surrounding frame. The molding around the depression is elaborately carved, with a row of foreign symbols lining the topmost edge of the circle. Examine the socket. The depression is about 3 finger widths deep, with a few small stone fragments jutting out from within the wall. Some pieces seem to rotate independently along slots, but they have no obvious effect in and of themselves. Place the stone disc in the socket. At first, the disc does not seem to fit until it is oriented a specific way. You hear a quiet click of casings as it sinks into place. Nothing appears to happen right away, however. On the disc itself, an arrow-shaped protrusion points north. Okay, leave first. As you turn away, you hear a faint grinding of stone. The dial faces north once more. Rotate the dial counterclockwise. The dial rotates easily enough, though you hear a peculiar rattling behind the wall. The dial comes to rest with a faint click. The arrow points west. Rotate the dial counterclockwise. The dial comes to rest with a faint click. The arrow points south. Counterclockwise again. The dial comes to rest with a faint click. The arrows point east. Push the disc. The dial spins out of your hand. It makes a complete revolution and rises so that it's flush with the rings once more. It comes to rest with the arrow pointing north. Or maybe the sentences are not in order. Maybe I have to form them, alright. I think it's south, west, east, and then north. A cold wind from the south reached Old Valia in the west and bore our parents east to seek the white forge in the north. So it's south, west, east, and then north. Okay, it's south first. Push the disc. You press the disc at the arrow as the arrow points south. You feel a satisfying thunk and notice that the dial has sunk a fraction of an inch into the depression. The door is still locked, but this feels like a step in the right direction. Then we go to the west. Push the disc. You feel another thunk and find that the dial has recessed further still into the stone. Now point to the east. Push the disc. After another small thud, the dial sinks a hair lower into the stone molding. The change is almost too small to see, but it seems to indicate progress. Now it's the north. Push the disc. You press the disc as the arrow points north. At first, nothing seems to happen, but after a few seconds have passed, the disc recedes deeper into the socket. You hear a clunk and a rattle of chains, and the door nearby swings open. The way is clear. All right. Oh, is the way down? Okay. Climb in. You and your allies clamber into the minecart. In a graceless jumble of jabbing elbows and weapons, pull the lever. With a shriek of grinding metal, the lever slides into place. The cart gives a mighty shudder, then starts rolling slowly along the track. The minecart moves downhill and quickly gathers speed. On the next rise, it becomes clear that there is some form of enchantment upon the tracks. The cart loses none of its momentum. After a sharp turn, you find yourself rapidly approaching a fork in the tracks. One track leads left and another upward and to the right. Look around quickly. You notice another lever set along the side of the tracks. The minecart hurtles along toward it. Grab the lever as you pass. Who will grab for the lever? Do it yourself. In a show of dexterity, you manage to hang over the side of the cart and grab the lever as it comes along. The impact nearly jars you from your perch, however, and leaves your shoulder aching. There is a grinding noise, and the tracks shift ahead of you. Just in time, the cart rattles onto the right track. After a dizzying series of turns and twists, the minecart slows and stops at the entrance to a new cavern. Dented minecarts and heaps of rubble block this tunnel. Of course, the sigil of the shield. Another minecart sits at the mouth of an ascending tunnel. You cannot be sure where it leads apart from out of this room. Hop in. You and your companions clamber into the minecart. You pull the lever and hear the now familiar whine of rusty wheels as the minecart starts rolling along the track. After a series of gentle twists and turns, the cart approaches a familiar cavern. Okay, so I can't explore the other routes. Fine. Several skeletons have been laid alongside one another. Their legs and ribs are broken, but a dented Abyddon statuette has been left amongst them.
Together. We're in this together.
I'll organize the troops to guard the stairs. We can hold them off for a while.
Vazo's repairing the Guardians. Ilune's preparing for the...
You can't be serious about this. Let's just wait those monsters out. Abidan wouldn't let us...
Okay, so Durgan's battery was invaded by monsters. But what kind of monsters? Who are those monsters?
Abidun rewards earnest work, not begging and cowering. We must hurry.
Okay, so the dwarves did not kill each other. The dwarves didn't fight each other. Yes, they have differences, but they didn't kill each other. They were invaded by monsters. And who were these monsters? Interesting.
Arm yourselves, soldiers!
I'll handle this. It's done.
Something pulled this construct apart like a child's toy. Must be terrifying monsters.
We'll give ourselves for the battery.
Annals of the Pargrunen. It was in the time of Edrahil the Sure-footed that we came to Sleabanrilag, an ancient place of the builders. As the locals call them, it was a marvelous sight, a door in the mountain framed by a pair of ghoulish aspects. Through some exercise of trickery or cunning, Edrahil was able to gain access for our scholars, that we might observe and record what lay inside. We discovered a foundry of sorts, the like of which neither we nor our distant brethren had seen. Through careful observation, we surmised that the ancients had used this place to extract souls and transfer them to suits of armor. Delicate and challenging work, yet the scale they had achieved left us humbled and astounded. Perhaps most remarkable were the golems, living suits of armor powered by essence. We lost 2 of our fellows when the creatures caught us unawares, but once we'd subdued them, they proved quite fascinating. All too aware that our hosts would never again allow us, nor other curious travelers, to visit this place, we took meticulous notes and measurements of all we saw, forsaking the bread and sleep until the work was done. We reported all to Edrahil, whereupon he praised our work and urged us quickly forward, for if such a place lay abandoned in the forest, who can say what other mysteries gods and kith have left in this strange and wild land. Okay, so the dwarves of the Pargrunen dwarves I take it they are different from the Dirwooden dwarves, right? So they came from what? From White March to Eirglanfath to explore Sliaban Rilag. My question is, why didn't these dwarves got attacked by the Glanfathans? I thought Glanfathans protect the Engwithan ruins. Strictly, why were these dwarves able to enter without opposition from the Glanfathans? And so Sliaban Rilag is where the dwarves found a way, the technique to put souls into suit of armors. I guess that's how they created the Forge Guardians.
The records are here. Keep searching.
Is this safe, Curate Loon?
No, it's necessary.
Torn scrolls and books with broken spines litter the floor below the shelves. Ancient scrolls have been yanked out of the shelves and left on the floor. Our Grunen histories lie open and abandoned. Some are missing pages.
We'll hold them off as long as we can.
Look at all these skeletons. They died here. I'm curious, what monsters are they referring to? Lagufayth? Ogres? This wall was a yard thick and solid stone, yet something broke through it. Interesting. What monsters? Ogres? Cracks snake across this stone tablet. The edges have been worn smooth over centuries of handling. It reads, "We who stand shoulder to shoulder alongside the oldest of Kith empires, send you forth. Honor us as we remember you." What? We who stand shoulder to shoulder alongside the oldest of Kith empires, send you forth. Honor us as we remember you. We refers to the Pargrunen dwarves? Stand shoulder to shoulder alongside the oldest of Kith empires? So I'm guessing that the Pargrunen dwarf civilization in the White March is much older than the establishment of Dirwoodens. I mean the establishment of Dirwood, and perhaps Eirglanfath at that time was not as Eirglanfath it is now. Maybe. Boulders and stone blocks tumble from the broken wall. It would require at least a dozen Aumaua to move even one of them.
I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
The letters on this tablet are crisp and deep, as if chiseled recently. They read, "Though our towers of stone are surrounded by gates of coral, we are Pargrunen still. Write our names in your halls and your hearts." The corners of this tablet are chipped, but is otherwise in good condition. It reads, "We plant ourselves in a strange and wild land, but remember well our roots. Though we are distant, know us still as kin." Okay, this implies the Pargrunen dwarves are not originally from White March. They came from somewhere else, then arrived in White March and built Durgan's battery. Or perhaps Durgan's battery is not their first construction in White March. Maybe there were others before Durgan's battery. Meditate on those who came before you and those who go beyond you. Remember first your father, but know all Pargrunen as kin, and last your younger brother. This globe is marked with the various Pargrunen settlements around Eora. Yeah, so Pargrunen have several settlements. Not just in White March. I see. How old is the Pargrunen dwarves? If they can write something like, "We stand shoulder to shoulder with the oldest of Kith empires," I'm assuming that they are much older than Dirwood. Perhaps also older than Erglanfath, as it is now. I mean, maybe they exist before Erglanfath was called Erglanfath, maybe. Obviously they are much older than Dirwood. Question is, are they older than Idir Empire? Or maybe they are the same, in the same range of year of establishment. This gilded globe has been crafted with exquisite detail. Mountains of hammered gold rise over mirror-smooth seas, and the rivers that carve the continents are as thin and neat as if they'd been carved with a razor. 3 perfect sapphires mark locations in Rawatai, Old Vailia, and Living Lands. The bronze band that circles the globe is inscribed with 3 repeating lines. Remember all Pargrunen, from the oldest before you to the youngest who follow you. Ah! It says that this place signifies that this object marks Pargrunen settlements. So Pargrunens exist in Rawatai, Old Vailia, and the Living Lands. Ah, I see. I see. Old Vailia. Before the era of the Vailian republics, perhaps. Old Vailia. Examine the globe. The rounded sapphires are just large enough for you to press them with your thumb. You test them and feel some kind of spring-loaded mechanism beneath them. With your keen eye for detail, you note that pressing the sapphire in Old Vailia releases the pressure beneath the other 2. Ah. Okay. Vailia releases the pressure. What about Living Lands? The rounded sapphires are just large enough for you to press them with your thumb. You test them and feel some kind of spring-loaded mechanism beneath them. With your keen eye for detail, you note that pressing the sapphire in Old Vailia releases the pressure beneath the other 2. Let's go Living Lands. You depress the sapphire set in the Living Lands. It sinks until it's flush with the surface of the globe. Press Rawatai. You hear a popping noise and all of the sapphires spring back up. Press Rawatai. Then press Living Lands. No? Alright. Okay, let's use the combination. Living Lands and then Rawatai. Not working. Okay, Living Lands. And then Old Vailia. Not working. Okay, Rawatai and then Living Lands. Not working. What about Rawatai then Old Vailia? Alright, not working. How about Old Vailia first? And then Living Lands. It clicks into place beneath the rippling ridge of a mountain. And then Rawatai. Oh, okay. And then Rawatai. It clicks into place along a curving coastline. At last, as the last sapphire snaps into place, the globe glows with veins of brilliant blue light. Then it rotates a quarter turn. As the lights die out, you hear clanking gears and grinding stone from one side of the room. What are these 2 short creatures? Are they statues or mannequins?
Abidan, guide us. Strengthen us with your flame, Lord Abidan.
Temper us for the crucible ahead.
Adra's sphere. This sphere has been shaped from a solid piece of Adra. It is covered in intricate, stylized etching to give it the appearance of an eye. A bronze statue of Abidan stands over incense, ash, and rusted metal tokens.
We'll stand ready, Commandants.
A hole bores into the stone. Its edges are blackened and gritty with soot.
I'll have this open in no time. It's done.
A star pattern crack radiates from the center of this table, as if a hammer or mace smashed in. A pair of skeletal hands protrudes from beneath it. What? A star pattern crack radiates from the center of this table, as if a hammer or mace smashed it. A pair of skeletal hands protrudes from beneath it. Ah, someone was hiding underneath the table. And that someone got found out and got smashed through the table. Must be the monster, right? But what kind of monsters? I doubt the ogres, because the ogres, compared to the dwarves, the ogres are very primitive compared to the dwarves, so it couldn't be the ogres. Then what are the monsters that they were referring to?
Fetch our best armors. They must stand up to the heat. Right away, Master Vasil.
Okay, armors that must stand up to the heat. So the monsters, not only they are strong, but they use heat. Maybe flaming monsters. Monsters who use flames or flaming monsters. Never encountered such creatures before.
I'll handle this. Carrying two. I'll handle this. It's done.
These pliers, picks and awls were made for shaping metal. Dried blood flakes off them like rust. Cracked skulls and splintered bones lie in a jumble. Most of the remains have been ground into dust.
Stand your ground!
Look here, another skeletons. Lots of them, a cluster of them.
Quickly! There's not much time!
Elune, we've never introduced this much essence into the White Forge.
Abidan gave us the tools, Vasil. We've got to make them work.
Okay, this conversation implies that these dwarves are very desperate. God, what steamrolled them? Your skin prickles as you approach the vat. It teems with soul energy, with life spent and stored thrice over. Essence roils like churning water, running over ancient pipes and gears. But there within the vat itself lies a heavy stone disc, rune engraved and pale as bone. Reach for the object. You feel a chill run up your arm the moment your fingers brush the disc's surface. Whispers erupt from the stone around you, and out of that chorus rises a single steady voice.
Stop! These methods belong to us, to the Pargrunen!
Aris Mittal asks, what happened here?
You would steal from us? From the...
I'm asking what happened here and you accuse me of stealing. Great.
Abidan himself! You will regret your trespass!
The angry hiss surrounds you. You hear a grinding, clicking noise in the hall. Something moans and snarls outside. On the binding of souls, the margins of this text are scribbled with notes and references. The ink-stained pages appear to have seen much use in earlier times. The removal of transference of souls is a practice both ancient and sophisticated. There is evidence that the Angwithons were particularly adept at this, yet few details have survived them. Someone scrawled Annals of the Pargrunen, EP 382-6, below this paragraph. What is known is that the removal of a soul is a difficult process and one that requires an expert hand and precise tools for any chance of success. Early attempts on a test pool of 138 goats left most of the subjects with maimed or fractured skulls. In all but 2 of the 11 instances where the soul was successfully removed, the essence dissipated before scholars could capture it. The words transferred to holding vessel are written and underlined in the margins. The process requires conductive materials, copper and adra. Specifically, immersion in water is important to ensure that the soul is drawn in a steady and uniform manner, with no distortions or breakages. A warped soul is, at best, useless and at worst unpredictable. An arrow points from this paragraph to a crunch note. Extraction pool in CR 18 feet wide by 3 feet deep. We have since mastered the process of soul transference and have seen the benefits of infusing forged work with the essence of animals and wilder. What remains to be seen is whether we might see greater gains from using the souls of kith, where we would procure the appropriate subjects, and how much personality and autonomy we would want to leave intact in such cases. A string of notes winds around and below this paragraph, beginning with criminals, prisoners of war, volunteers, question marks, and ending with forged guardians in block letters. Okay, so they're using the souls of criminals, prisoners of war, and volunteers to fuel these forged guardians.
I'll handle this. It's done.
Books and pages scrawled with equations and measures of essence are scattered across this table, as if someone went through them in a hurry.